Live now, actually, never. Hi everyone, welcome to the Mental Health Warriors. I'm Caroline Murphy-Bennett, the Rainbow Warrior, and I'm co-hosting today's show with Simon, our workplace warrior. And we have a wonderful guest, Kim Dunlop, who's coming especially to speak to us from Australia, and she's a dating coach. And today's show is about, how can we have a more communication in our relationships and build a confidence in ourselves through that. So welcome, Kim. We're delighted to have you here.
Thanks, Caroline, for having me again. It's great to be here. Hi, Simon.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
I've had you've been on Warrior TV once before, I think. Is that right, Kim?
I have, yes. So with Adam, chatting to Adam. So that was very fun. It was really interesting. So it's I think it's amazing what he's creating and all the people involved, like yourself and Simon. It's wonderful. I think it's really great.
And I had the privilege of getting to know Kim through the Rainbow Warrior Women's Group recently as well. We had a lovely long chat, so I have had a bit of a background on your journey yourself, and I'd love to just open it up at kind of, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your services and what you coach and how you help people, with well-being and with through the coaching industry, I suppose, for dating.
Yeah, and it's quite a niche little market that I've created, and it's actually really benefiting a lot of people. I think because the focus is what you just mentioned, Caroline, is on people's well-being. And particularly like in the dating world or in any relationship, we're all wanting people to understand who we are, and what we're trying to share and relating better, and finding love. And, through that, we all go through a different process. And so it's really like looking at that process for everyone, and it's different for everyone. And I've got lots of different people that I coach in different industries. And, whether it's a truck driver or an engineer or a doctor or a finance person, everyone's got different needs. And so what I find is I think the starting point is really just the art of conversation and how are we creating conversations to connect. Okay. And so having that connection and what are the conversations we're having with ourselves in order to really understand the type of relationship that we want to be in. So, it's very exciting. I love the work that I do because people get so empowered by it. Yeah. They're stepping in and actually taking action through me supporting them by just listening to what their needs are, but then understanding how they can actually do it and become, responsible for what they want to go towards. So,
that's wonderful, actually, because Simon, you had an interview yesterday, Monday actually, and we were talking a little bit about, the quality of the relationships that you have in your life and how that can really impact on your self-esteem and, your wellness, and when you have people that are enriching in your life, it makes such a huge difference, and especially so if you have the right relationship, and I suppose like when you get to middle age, you start to realize, I suppose you start to kind of start to understand yourself a little bit more, don't you? And sometimes that shows up in your relationships, doesn't it? So it's kind of like a gateway to finding more self-knowledge and more self-awareness. Do you find that?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that, and it's I said to someone the other night, I was out actually networking, and this guy was interested in looking at my services. And I said to him, would you have a relationship with yourself? And it was quite interesting because he turned around and he said to me, no, I wouldn't. And so, um, and I said, oh, so what is that about? And he then sort of discounted himself, Caroline, in that space. And we're constantly judging ourselves. So I think the biggest thing for us is to kind of look at ourselves and start to be kind and really just look at the beautiful qualities that we each have. And what I kind of talk to with people is around your values. What do you value? And I think it's a really big thing is when you understand what you value. So then I said to him, well, what do you value? You know, and I said, you know, do you value family connection? And so I started to build a bit of a list for him. And so he then started to connect with himself through understanding a little bit more. And he goes, yes, I like to catch up with my family. I like to socialize with my friends. And I said, how do you like to do that? And so then he was starting to build an understanding of self and how he was relating and the types of relationships that he was surrounding himself with. So I said, and then I posed a big question, which is something that I learned quite a long time ago. And I really love this piece. It was about 10 years ago. I had a coach, and he said to me, Kim, do you exist? And I said, yes, I do. You know, and it was quite an interesting thing. And he said, well, Kim, if you exist, then other people like you exist as well.
Wow.
And so such a beautiful thing. And this is the thing, it's like if we're being kind to ourselves or if we're not and we're having, I mean, because, you know, let's be honest, you know, we all have days when our emotional states are not, you know, up and high. And so we're working through emotions, which could be, you know, something in our family. It could be a death in the family. You know, there's all these emotions. And so I think we forget as human beings that it's really important for us to actually understand our state of emotions, you know, and how do we manage that?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Can I? That's very powerful, Kim, because
Thank you.
so I was saying to Caroline before the program, I've been there, done that with divorce and everything else, and I'm happily married now. Let me put that straight for the for the record. 25 years, married, second
I was going
time
to
now.
quickly sign you up, Simon. No, I'm
but it's the emotional state that you're saying there that's quite critical. I mean, I've suffered with anxiety and depression for over 30 years. Part of that was with a toxic first marriage, and I think you're right in holding your values. Secondly, it's emotional intelligence for me, and to be honest, I'm 54 now, and it was probably 2017 when I turned 50 that I had my second midlife crisis. And, you know, I learned very, very quickly. There's two things that really switched me. One was when you're in control of your thoughts, which I am now, then you can choose what you do when you do it. But the other thing is with connection, I became very, very emotional, but I was a typical man that wanted to hide it all and everything else and that. But once I learned to become vulnerable, when I started to do that, and I took people away within my life, and I either distanced them or left the relationships alone. And once I got those people that were draining the energy from me, I become a lot more emotional, more sensitive to my feeling and everything else. And I think the value really, I mean, my wife has been very strong and supportive of me over the years now, but she's had a lot of benefit from that. And the fact that I'm now so switched on, I'm present within the relationship. When I wasn't, I was withdrawn. and everything else. And since their daughter's gone to university, it's just her and me. That has impacted big time. But the point that I would also add to that, me and my wife had very much shared values. We think more or less alike. We do argue like anyone else, but to me, it's just a bit of bickering as it is, and I think it's very good what you've done. So.
Oh, I love what you just shared, Simon. I mean, that is just so powerful, what you've just shared. And just to be real and to acknowledge and identify what you said, and I think if I heard it correctly, your faults, to then be able to then really then focus on then sharing yourself and opening up through your emotional intelligence. And like, that's massive. It's massive. And I really, just want to highlight that and acknowledge that, because it's almost like the first stage of awareness, in the sense that if we start to become vulnerable, as you say, by acknowledging that and going, look, but you're starting to then get in contact with yourself and really connect with yourself. And I think that's massive. It's really powerful, Simon, the ability to actually be able to relate with self and then to be able to then share that with someone else. And look, it's an interesting one, even with men, Simon. And I don't know whether your culture is very similar to the Australian culture, but I feel it's quite similar. And Caroline, you'll probably, have some resonance with this, is, men culturally, Simon, have been taught to be the strong ones, to be the label of who they are, and whether it is the engineer, the contractor, the labourer, whatever it might be, they're attached to that label, and it's like, I've got to be the strong one. And if I was to share my feelings, then that means I'm weak. Is that putting me in a vulnerable position? And so it's so powerful, you shifting that and sharing that, and really working on that, because it does take time. It takes a lot of time,
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, I'm like you, I'm a coach, but the reason I set up my company, Mancake Movement, is very much because of that toxic relationship that we've had with masculinity over the years. I mean, words like the man up, grow up, care. You very much, as you say, you've got to be the strong one and that. And of course, I've grown up around that model, and I never knew any better. And unfortunately, it's my generation that has suffered so much because of this toxic culture, that we've got to get to the next generation and generation after that. We've got to smash this stigma, and we've got to get men's mental health to be an everyday subject. I mean, I've suffered really, really bad. I mean, better my background would tell you, I served in the army, I worked in the construction industry, and politics, and everything there was very much a male culture, and very few women around, and it really was. I mean, if you showed any signs of mental weakness, you were completely rigged, and you don't need that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'll just use an analogy as I'm talking to an Aussie. It's like, I played cricket for many, many years, sledging and that. Yeah, that's fine. But, in the culture of today, is it really appropriate? You don't know. I mean, I'm not sure what it's like in Australia, but certainly over here, I mean, anything like some of the stuff that you could say when somebody's walking to a wicket, that you could get away with 20 years ago, you'd likely to end up really offending someone now. And I think a lot of young people today over here in the UK are really waking up to this culture around men. You're absolutely right. And of course, we don't open up in relationships, and it does follow through.
And then it comes out in different behaviours, through being aggressive or being frustrated, But I'll throw to Caroline, because I think, Simon, it's a really good point, because Caroline and I, if from memory, my memory serves me correct, Caroline, you came from the corporate world as well. And so we were, Carol and I are very similar in the sense that, we were working with a lot of men. And so we were exposed, Simon, to masculine energy. And I'll pass it over to Caroline, because then I'll tell you my take on it, because I was a similar breed to you, Simon, in the sense that I became that person as well. You know, I can't show my feelings. I've just got to get on with it. And but yeah, I know, Carolyn, you know.
Yeah, actually, it's really interesting listening to you both, actually, because I was just thinking about the last couple of days, and especially, like, we're both in the Campfire Project as well. And I was thinking to myself how, you know, they talk about men having to be strong and having that kind of, I suppose, being like, you know, the strong one in the family as such. And I think it's actually not just men, because for myself, I had to be the strong one in my family, because I firstly, like, I was very close to my dad, and I had two brothers, and my dad, I was probably closer to my dad than my brothers even. So I was kind of raised nearly like a boy as such. And, you know, because I was always, you know, so close to my more influenced by my dad, I would say. And then when my dad, I suppose when I'm 18, my parents broke up, and my dad kind of went on to a kind of a difficult journey himself. So I didn't have kind of that kind of guidance anymore from either of my parents. So I took on the role in the family of being the strong one, you know, and I kind of sorted out my mum and sorted my brothers out, my older and my younger brother. And I, you know, went into corporate. I went, put the hat on for, you know, like, I'm going to study hard, work hard, keep everything kind of as if I was holding the whole thing up, you know, my presence, my solidity and my clear focus, and really I didn't really have, I don't think I really had that much opportunity or the luxury of my own emotions. I would say it was that would be kind of a luxurious thing for me, to be able to have a space, to be able to just be honest about how I felt, because, you know, I was aware that if I was to go down or crumble, that everybody else would fall down around me, because they were always like a house of cards as such, you know. So it was really important to kind of keep things. So it was kind of, I suppose, when I went I did very well then, because I had that in the corporate world, and I worked with all men. Then I was the only senior designer at 24 in a team of all male designers. And, you know, I was very at home there, because I was a really good worker. I was really focused. I was really on the job. And it was brilliant, because I didn't have to, when I was working all the time, I didn't really have to deal with my emotions as such, you know. It was kind of like, it was easier. It was kind of black and white in work, you know, that kind of way. But then when I went home, then it was kind of like, you know, I used to feel kind of disconnected from myself as such, you know. But then I go back into work, and I'd kind of get you know, filled up in work. So I don't think it's just a male thing. I think it depends on your role in the family as well, your kind of how your life experience and how life has kind of played out for you as such. And it's not until I had my own kids, when I was in my 30s, and I started to kind of take a step back from work, and I got this beautiful kind of connection with lots of other mums. And I just absolutely loved it. And I think it was actually only at that stage in my life that I started to kind of, you know, really get close to women, and kind of really, I started to kind of blossom myself, like, in a different way, you know. And I started to kind of, I suppose I just have this thing where I love getting people together. So I used to get people to go to this women's mother and toddler group, and I'd always be kind of, I started myself. I went into a local one, and then I got all the other women to come in, and, you know, we ended up in this huge big group, and we meet once a week, and it was brilliant. So then I started to kind of learn about, like, emotions and things like that, you know. And you know, I just really benefited from the kind of that environment as such. And I suppose today now I have the women's group as well, where I see that it's nothing to do with really, you know, men against women or anything like that. It's the opposite. It's trying to kind of get to your own truth and get to your own, connect into your own kind of feelings, emotions. And especially, I think, in, you know, England, Ireland, you know, in Australia as well, we've been repressed, you know, we grew up in repressed societies, you know, so our emotions have been push down. So you know, it's just trying to feel it's okay, it's safe to have these. You know, they're beautiful. Emotions are, you know, the gateway to kind of happiness. So we're kind of, you know, when we sit with ourselves and we feel them, whether they're whatever flavor they have, is okay, and it's just to work through them and to kind of, and I think that is really shows up in your relationships. You know, so if you're able to be emotionally vulnerable, it makes a huge difference, and it's kind of something that has to kind of be learned. And I thought, Simon, it was great what you were saying about, especially when you know, it's great to hear from people who've been through, you know, and you're kind of older. I love to hear what you were saying about in your 50s, and you had a second midlife crisis, because you know the way I'm 47, I'm like, okay, I have another one coming. But it's great to know that, I suppose, and to hear yourself like that, you know, you've had such a lovely marriage after going through that, you know, period yourself, and that you're kind of giving back to, you know, the men's groups, and the more people like that are kind of really valuing that, you know, that really has a knock-on effect, doesn't it, you know, across society, and just that education, you know, around our emotional well-being. Yeah.
And I love what you just said. And I think, you know, it's the roles that we're playing throughout our lives. And, you know, we decide to take on these roles in some ways. And, you know, with the men and women, we can all learn from one another, because we're all playing some role. And the emotional side, I think, can be challenging if we don't feel like we're in a safe place. So in the corporate world, I had a similar experience. You know, you kind of had to keep it together, you had to keep going, and you had to come up with results. And so it was always commercially focused, and it wasn't necessarily about, you know, what's the vision? What are we doing here? How are we setting up people to succeed? And I think that there's opportunity for all of us now to really dig deep and actually start to really understand individually what emotions are coming up for us, you know, to become responsible for how we're thinking and feeling and speaking, and really just notice it with others as well. As, you know, words can be powerful, tone can be powerful, and the way that we deliver that message, are we delivering it in a way that person's open to hearing it, you know? And it's the communication, and there's so much beauty in communication and expanding a conversation. I mean, look at how wonderful it is for us, you know, to all share, you know, these incredible stories. And yeah, I just think that there's definitely lots of benefits in working out what are good, healthy ways that we can change this, you know. And I think that's the big piece with the mental health warriors, which I love. And I love that, you know, that platform is being created for people to then go, it's okay to share your emotions. And I don't know about you both, but I always say to people, if you're dealing with something, whether it's personal, professional, to actually pick someone who you feel has got the emotional capacity to hold that space and to potentially give you some advice. You know, you might want to only ask for someone to listen to you. You might want some advice about how to step forward. And I think there's some, you know, really a lot of benefit in us actually starting that process for ourselves, you know, with what's gone on in the world in the last 2 years. And just pointing to what Simon said about the emotional intelligence. And I'd love to know both of your definitions on emotional intelligence, but I've always been practicing it for 30 years, but not realizing that I was practicing it. And so in sharing this message to others is we haven't been taught it. And so we kind of are like robots, and we're, you know, we finish school, you know, our parents have been teaching us values, we go off into the workforce, and then you come up against people who might be bullies. So you get all these different dynamics. And then you come across relationships and you go, oh, that's actually not really nice what that person's doing to me. And what Simon, realized he, it wasn't serving him to be in this relationship. And then realizing that that's been presented to us to go, now we have choice.
Yes.
And sometimes it's hard to kind of choose to step out of it, and it can take a lot of courage, and that's why, I really think it's amazing, Simon, and with anyone, I know.
Oh, I love that, Kim, actually, what you said there, because I was just thinking to myself recently about awareness. Like, we're all talking about awareness, and, when you come to mindfulness and, how we respond in the moment. And then I was thinking about relationships, and I was thinking when it really brings it down to when you become self-aware, it brings choice into it for you. Because I think a lot of us in our younger days, or when you're 20s, whatever, you don't have that self-awareness. So sometimes you end up in relationships that aren't serving you. So when you start to become self-aware, then I think that it becomes, the emotional intelligence is that you are intelligent about yourself. You've understood. You can understand your values, what you want, what lights you up, what energizes you, what enriches you, and then you have a choice and who to select that will kind of do that for you or with you, not for you. Because I think that's it, when I think the old was kind of like finding somebody who's going to fill you up. And I think the opposite is when you have self-awareness is, you find somebody else who's also full and you're full, and then you can just energize each other and kind of, you just enrich each other's lives, and you're able to support them emotionally. They're able to support you emotionally. You're safe to have big emotions, and celebrate life together, and also be devastated by things that have happened, but that's okay, and you're safe to grow and to blossom in yourself, but from your core, not from a sense of wanting to please somebody else or looking for love because you don't feel you've that lack in yourself, that kind of way. So I think for emotional intelligence, to me, is like that. It's kind of becoming emotionally secure within yourself. So you're kind of at that deep self-love, which is a constant practice, all the time. And if you're deepening that all the time and always, coming back to yourself. So once you have a practice of how to fill yourself up, and you're not looking for that other person, the neediness kind of comes out of it then, it's not you're needing, it's like you're bringing, what are you offering in a relationship? You have something to offer, I think that for me has been the learning in the last few years that I've been trying to, I suppose, finding out about myself as such, not to do it even in a relationship, but what, the process, a healthy process of being in relationship with not just an intimate, with everybody around you as such, but I suppose there's always a special connection with that one person that, that you choose to kind of walk the journey of life with,
That's exactly it. I love that. I just love it. And it is. And I mean, I'll be curious to know what you think, Simon, because it's that intelligence or that emotional connection. And I point to myself when I say that. And it's the ability to know oneself and the ability to actually understand others. So then when you've got that, you can then have choice and going, and speaking to that, talking to them, saying, I was coaching someone today, and I think this is an interesting piece as well, is in us being in this masculine energy, which I think we all have been running this masculine energy. The other part is the receiving. And so what I've practiced over many years, and it's taken a lot for me to actually receive, is then stating my desire. This is what I would like from you. This is what I'm open to actually receiving, which is a man sharing their feelings. So Simon, I love that you share your feelings, that you're being vulnerable, and I love it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I've probably practiced it without knowing it for many, many years. I mean, in my political background, I was a local councillor for 26 years. I stood for Parliament. I led a local council, and you know, it came out of my speaking, and people said you just had that, the passion just connected, and you were able to inspire people in public meetings, etc. And that. So I had vulnerability from that point of view, but relationship wise, I had issues around intimacy, if I'm honest, and it scared me. And it wasn't really, as I say, until I really started to connect with myself. I knew that I needed to do some work on myself, and like you, I went and got a coach, and I did the general exercises of digging the layers off and everything else, until we found a diamond down at the bottom. And when I started to go deep in that, I realised there was a couple of blocks that I knew there was a block, because it came back to it came very much back to when my uncle died when I was 12 years old. I sat there going to the hospital, beside his hospital bed, for the best part of 6 months. In them days, you were kept in hospital because he had lung cancer, he had a brain tumour. I didn't know any of that. And in them days, children didn't go to funerals. The family thought they were doing the best thing to protect you and all that. And one of the things that I had a real aha moment is, I've got it.
Was it what? Sorry?
I hadn't had the opportunity to say goodbye.
Okay.
So, as it is, I still live very, very local to the church where he is. I went down, and I spent some time down there talking to him and everything else and that. And I broke that one. Well, secondly, I say, with my first marriage, my ex-wife was an alcoholic. She did get married again, but she lost her life at the age of 37, having a kidney transplant. And basically, they severed an artery, hadn't realised what it was, and she bled to death. Well, which was horrendous, because I know, as my son and I just turned 18, and he was in bits and that. And then suddenly, for me, all these emotions come flooding back.
Okay.
And where do I go? I can hardly talk to my current wife about my ex-wife, because I don't want to upset her or offend her and everywhere else. And she wasn't particularly liked within the family, although obviously I had to keep a relationship there with her, and actually our relationship was far, far better when we were apart, and we had the interest of my son and going through his schooling and everything else. But you know, I'd practiced it, but I say these things all came out, and I God, do you know what? I still did love the woman. You know, deep down, you know, deep down and everything else. I tried to do the best things by her. I always stood by with my maintenance payments. I paid out, and also paid out the extra for uniform when it was needed, that kind of thing. So I was lucky that I maintained a relationship with my son. And to be fair, my son's stepfather, I had a reasonably good relationship with him. I knew him through, funny enough, cricket. But, you know, I really began to tap in there, and I found them emotions. And for me, I suppose emotional connection is actually being in touch with your feelings and actually understanding what they are.
Yeah.
And a lot of my issues, you know, I mean, was it's attacked me mentally, physically. My digestive system is, well, it's an absolute nightmare. Where I've bottled it up for years and everything else, and that it does hurt your physical health too.
It does, doesn't it?
You know, and it's something that, you know, I try to get across to people. You know, you're going to do yourself untold harm.
Yeah, I had that as well. Yeah, irritable bowel syndrome. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I've had IBS, diverticulitis. I had a hiatus hernia operation. you know, and I still get very bad acid reflux even now. But you know, it's
the body
you know,
doesn't never lies, does it? You know.
And I might have something for you, Simon. So, but I'll take that offline. But
yeah, okay. I mean, I'm quite happy to have that.
only because I had similar symptoms about 30 years ago, and I worked through it. And so, yeah, when we understand all the different parts in our body, but it's definitely from our minds creating it. But I just picked up on something I wanted to just talk to was your willingness and choosing to maintain that relationship with your ex. You had a connection, and I think it's really beautiful that you say that, you know, I loved her, and you had emotions, and whilst you had a new chapter that was being presented, Simon, there was still that connection there. And it was from our original choosing, and I can really relate to that because I broke up with my ex 8 years ago, and I still love him and care for him. He's moved on and has got a new partner, and I've moved on and I've got a new partner. But at the end of the day, I hold values of respect, and I feel that you're very similar in the sense that you are holding that responsibility of relationship. And that's one of my values. I have 3 values. One is relationships, communication, and image. And, you know, representing myself in that authentic way. And it's talking to someone out of respect or communicating the way that they want to receive a message. And even with my breakup, I realized that my preferred communication was speaking, but my ex's was not, and it was too much for him. So it's really even understanding with those breakups that some people prefer to communicate via email or text. And so it's then trying to relax and understand that other people's way is not your way. But it sounds like that you were, you know, choosing to create that beautiful relationship for you and your son, and holding your values. And so I think that's beautiful, Simon. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, don't get me. It was quite difficult at times. I've just noticed there in the comments that both Steve and Adam are saying, please share with everybody, Kim. Can you please share this in the campfire, which I think was with the digestive problems and that. So we'll talk about that.
Oh, okay.
Elsewhere, but it's very, very clear there. Just the 2 comments there from them 2 guys, are just how much impact it has. I mean, for me, I did read something, and I don't know where I read it, that actually part of the brain is in the gut. And so anyway, just to say, we'll have that chat elsewhere. But I mean, for me, I mean, the whole bit was that often I see her suffer with the alcoholism, and there were issues around concerns of neglect and everything else, and one thing and another. And at times my son did come to me when her health suffered and everything else. And there was a very, very fraught relationship, for the best of worst, between my wife and my son. I mean, now he very much, I mean, every time Mother's Day's about and that, he always gets her a card still with mum on it and everything else. And the relationship, as he's become an adult, has thrived. And I mean, a lot of my son's behavioural issue really stemmed from the fact that he see a mother that suffered. He had a very, at best, I'm trying to think of the word, but you know, there's a very, very toxic home life that he and his stepsister grew up in, and you know, that had an emotional impact on him, and by fault, obviously, had an emotional impact on me. But I had to, well, I did. I stepped up to the plate as a parent, and you're very much like the man coach. That you say you had to. Yeah, no, you are the one that is taught to be that strong person and hold everything together in that. And the trouble is, when I was holding it together for the family and everything else, inside I was absolutely falling apart.
We've got a lovely comment there. There's loads of people on supporting you guys here. We've got Adam and Kerry and Steve. And Steve says, thank you so much for sharing so openly, Simon. Vulnerability is a superpower that us men need to embrace more. Thanks, Steve. That's so true. To keep getting that message out there, you know, that it is the strength, a sign of strength, you know, isn't it? You know, and showing, you know, your journey and your vulnerability like that and what comes from it. You know, it's true strength then, isn't it? You know, because I suppose what you're saying is like a shield you're putting over yourself, but it's not underneath. It's like, you know, it's soft, but on the outside, you know, it looks hard or whatever, but it's, you know, and you're only damaging yourself, your body. Like Steve says there, you know, almost every part of us is attached to the gut. You know, so it's just like, and I suppose, you know, we all, even though, you know, I suppose we're from the kind of, we've had a journey with kind of the masculine energy as such, that's definitely been something for me that I suppose through meditation and mindfulness, I realized, you know, that it was, you know, more psychological to kind of, you know, calm my nervous system down, you know, had a huge impact on my stomach and my, you know, gastro issues and stuff. And it was down to, you know, always having to be kind of the rock, you know, the rock of the family kind of thing, you know. And I suppose that's what you're kind of doing with your gut, that you're kind of squeezing everything up, you know, everything's being squeezed up tight, you know. So I think, yeah, it's great education, isn't it? You know, to listen to people's journeys like that, you know.
It is. And I think, yeah, the more, and I mean, I came from a European mum, and one thing that she said to me from a very young age is always listen to your body. Yeah. And so if we start to listen to our bodies and going, why is it reacting this way? And because we're putting our bodies under so much stress, because we're overthinking things. And, you know, and I think there's great opportunity for us now to actually see where we place our energy and why are we being over responsible for some others, where we need to put the focus on ourselves sometimes and just be responsible for ourselves and then be in a bit stronger position to then be able to help others. And so I think that's a really important thing for even the viewers. Just, you know, just ask yourself, you know, if you're helping someone, what state are you in? And, you know, the vulnerability that we all can share is around when we're not in a good state. And, you know, do we have that energy to keep on putting others first, or do we need to actually say, listen, I just need to put myself first? And I just think that's it. From a mental health point of view, we need to be checking in with ourselves. And, you know, even asking, I don't know whether you do this, Caroline or Simon, but, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at today? You know, it's even basic little tools like that we can check in with ourselves and see if we're truly connected. And, you know, have we had a great sleep? Are we eating good foods? Or are we, you know, have we had not much sleep and then now eating crap because we want carbohydrates or we want to drink, you know, some fizzy drinks? And look, I don't let my children have fizzy drinks, and then I see them at parties trying to have fizzy drinks. And look, the sugar, you know, like anything, it's not great for us. It's not great for our minds. But however, I have this balance or understanding that sometimes we want a little bit of chocolate, or sometimes we want a little bit of, you know, a nice wine or a beer, and, you know, with our friends. And my mum's always, you know, shared with me, if you have everything in moderation, you know, and so it's creating that healthy balance or that healthy relationship with ourselves.
Yeah, it's funny, Kim, because with my kids, actually, you know, like that, they're teenagers now, so I noticed that as well. You know, so great, their eating was so brilliant when they were small kids, and then it got to the stage then when they were teenagers, you know, they wanted to kind of try everything. So I kind of let them. I actually gave them the freedom to, like, okay, you know, eat the stuff, eat every, you know, I didn't stop them. And then what turned out then, because I wanted them to experience how they felt, you know, the contrast, because life to me is all about contrast. You know, life is here. You know, you have to have the dark and the light, to find your way. You can't find your way if you don't have contrast, so contrast is the way, so you're kind of, I like that, I don't like that, I like that, until you get to the stage where you find what you love, and then you start to kind of, you're really on purpose then. And like what I had noticed with them, that they started to kind of steer away naturally from the sugary things eventually, because they realized that it didn't make them feel good, and and they had that realization themselves. I know, and I think maybe from us, you have to that yourself, like it's not going to make you feel good, it's trying to just become conscious of that, and maybe putting your well-being, and like I said, keeping yourself on balance is really the most important thing, isn't it, on a daily basis. And it has to be like daily basis, moment to moment, and you're never going to get it fully right, but it's just keeping the balance is key, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think, Adam, can you say that question that, Adam, you have to question when you are stressed, why are you stressed? As Steve and Anton McMulkin mentioned, we all have a choice.
Yeah, we certainly do. We certainly do. And I mean, I must admit, although I'm well on top of my mental health these days, I know when I'm in trouble, my energy levels are low and I feel down, and I can pick that emotions up now. And when I'm in that place, I do take time out now, which I never used to do when I was younger. And I just take maybe 1 or 2 days. I just need to get myself reset, refocused, and find my way forward. But I think the trouble is, it's not something that you can teach. It's very hard. But if you are doing, as you say, Caroline, with the mindfulness, the meditation practices, that type of thing, then you are very much in touch with yourself. I mean, for me, journaling has been a lifesaver, because when I put it down on paper, I'm dumping my mind, I'm uncluttering it, and it doesn't matter what you put on there. You don't even need to burn it. I mean, some of the stuff that I talked about earlier, I did write and then I burnt it, because I didn't want anybody to find it in later life and think, crikey, that was a wreck. But there are some things that just need to remain between you and that bit of paper, and I think that's quite clear. But
I actually found Simon, my dad just passed away, and I found some of his writing. I didn't realize he was actually journaling his whole life, and I thought it was so enlightening for me. The stuff that he had written down of the depths of his heart, I just was like, the tears were rolling down my face, like, because I just really realized the journey he was on, like the struggle he had. And he talked about his relationship with my mom, and about how he loved us so much, and the connection, how he loved her, and she was a great mom, and just he was sorry that things didn't work out. And he was just like, he was journaling it all out without realizing, like we call it journaling now, but he was a great writer, and I found all these in his notes when I was going through everything, and it was just amazing. So like, just, like it would be, I know you kind of think, I know it's such a gift for me to find that, to find his inner thoughts, within his work, that like, it was lovely to connect. Like, everybody's the same. We're all the same. We're all on that same journey, aren't we, of trying to connect, to ourselves. And Kim, I know that you need to head off.
Oh yeah, we can head off really shortly, because one thing I wanted to say was what I loved about what Adam shared is you have to question when you are stressed. And what I say to people is just notice it. And like, Simon, is just where you're aware, and then what are we doing about that? Because I just think it's just, we need to keep on talking about this more and more. To say, okay, you're rushing about, you're so busy, can you take that time and choose this to actually have some downtime for yourself? Because will that support you in, just the next day? And like, I know for me, I had a big week last week, and then I had the house all free to myself on the weekend, and I just pretty much stayed in bed for half the day. and I chose it. And then I watched a video, so I went from my bed to the lounge and stayed at home the whole day, and it was just magic. And I had coffee, But like I needed the downtime, and I know for myself personally, because I've known how I've been operating for a long time, is I get my energy from actually getting downtime.
Yes.
So not from uptime, from downtime. And so I actually go into this, I need to restore my energy and just lie and just rest and do nothing. And I count that as like an achievement. I'm counting actually lying in bed, and I'm counting watching a movie, and counting not doing anything. And I'm like, this is a massive achievement.
Absolutely. You're recharging your batteries, you know?
Yeah.
And it kind of gives you time to process as well. I always feel like that, you know, we need to process life. We need to have space just to process our experiences, our emotions, you know, I've always used to call it just sitting with myself, you know, just to sit and just to kind of catch up and like just let it run through you kind of thing. And then you go, okay, I'm ready to go again. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we need to give ourselves that time. I love that. I really do.
Maybe we'll finish up on that, give ourselves that downtime. Is a nice way to finish it. Thank you so much, Kim, for coming really and sharing all your wisdom with us. You know, it's just been absolutely amazing and priceless. And Simon, also, you know, it's fantastic to have you on the team, and you're just like getting a taste of the wealth of your experience, your life experience, and you're such a brilliant you're so brilliant, a brilliant communicator. So it's fantastic to sit with you and hear all of your journey, also, especially with relationships. And actually, for a bit of housekeeping, I think it just said there's an announcement there that Adam had been taking a break, but I think he's back on tonight. He's been taking a little downtime, a little, like we said, recharging time this week, but he's actually back on tonight with Andrea Evans at 8 p.m. And so thanks everybody for listening, for watching us, and Steve and Adam and Kerry and you know, anyone who's listening back to us. We're delighted to have your company, and we hope you've enjoyed the conversation. And thanks so much, Kim.
Oh, pleasure. It's been wonderful seeing you again, Caroline, and nice to meet you, Simon.
Kim, yeah.
Congratulations and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I look forward to more conversations like this. It's amazing. Thank you for having me.
And Kim, we'll have you on again, definitely.
We'll definitely do it.
And maybe you come on to my show on Friday night, which is Words as Medicine. So it's about conscious communication. I'd love to have you there.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Maybe on a panel discussion. Yeah,
that's great.
Brilliant.
Let's talk
Merry
about
Christmas, guys, and we'll see you all again soon.
Christmas.
Okay. Bye.
See you guys. Thanks for having me. Bye.